I used to work at a company called Patreon, and at Patreon, I was the head of gaming. It was my job to find gamers and gaming-related creators to bring onto the platform so that they could produce what they love and make money doing it. One of the first people I ever worked with while I was there was a guy by the name of Danny O'Dwyer. Danny O'Dwyer created a thing called NoClip, where he makes the video game documentaries he wants to make and funds it through Patreon. He's also a huge F1 frog, so it was really cool for me to meet him and talk to him about that. Maybe the kindest person in the gaming industry I've never met. I was very glad that on his first month, he was making something like $18,000 through his patrons. They wanted to support him making this content. So today, to give back, I'm going to be watching his NoClip documentary on a game that I've been playing lately, Dwarf Fortress. Now, this game recently came out on Steam with a new graphical interface. I believe this was made way before that, so it's going to be like a lot of ASCII and shit. I think enjoy it either way. Let's go!
Bug reports are always like this in Dwarf Fortress. It's like, I have a problem in my tavern. There's a bunch of dead cats in there, and I don't know why. And so they send me a save or whatever. What we ended up discovering was that the cats... so I had just added this new feature in the taverns where there's actual service at the bar, right? So there's the tavern keeper will get a mug, fill it at the bar.
How do I make a bar? I have a tavern keeper. This is not just an opportunity for me to talk about my Dwarf Fortress save, but I have a tavern keeper. My people just go in there and fill themselves up, I think.
But I mean, oftentimes the dwarves are like called out to go do a job, right? And so they'll take their mug, just pitch it on the floor because they don't care about like cleanliness because I'd have to teach them how to be clean, right? So they pitch it on the floor, and of course that spills the contents onto the floor, right? So now you got like alcohol over the floor of the bar. And that's fine, right? That's how bars are sometimes. But
not many bars.
The cats would walk in there, and because of this other thing we added to make like lava more realistic or whatever, the alcohol would actually get on their little feet. Right, so the cats have this alcohol now soaked in on their little feet, and because of this other, so there was this whole other thing.
I like that he has to describe like 17 different like thought processes to lead to the fact that this guy has hundreds of dead cats in his tavern.
Back when stuff was getting like when you get,
he's got his eyes closed. He's literally entering the Matrix to remember this. Ah, yes.
That I added. Back when stuff was getting, like, when you'd get, like, blood splattered on you during a fight or something, we had this problem where it would be, like, there's blood on your eyes or whatever, and there's blood. And so when people would go to, like, clean with soap, it was really weird because they'd be, like, soaping their eyeballs or whatever. And we're like, okay, so we just need to make eyelids work, right? So we go to the eyelid body part, and we're like, the eyelid just cleans, like, the eye, right? And at this time, of course, because of how the thing works modularly, like, well, we can make cats clean themselves because it's so cute, right? Like, oh, they're just licking their paws and so forth, and it's charming, right? And so
it is charming.
So we have these cats now that are in the bar with the alcohol soaked in their feet. Now they're licking them. They're like licking their paws. And of course, because we had just finished like ingested poisons not too long ago, right, they're now getting drunk, right? And this is the bug. The actual bug is just there was a numeric problem because I didn't expect this at all. And so they were like drinking a whole mug every time they would link their hand, like an actual mug for a poor cat. And the other calculations were all fine, so that just wasn't good for them. Their blood alcohol content shoots up to who knows what. And they didn't make it, and we had like the 7 or 8, we just go on Wikipedia, right, and have like the 7 or 8 different symptoms of alcohol poisoning. And
I love the way they made their game, which was like, yeah, this is how it is in the real world. We're going to try and get as close to that as possible in our dwarf simulation game.
The cats respiratorily failed and keeled over in the bar, and that was the bug report. And
but like the punchline of the story is all these cats were getting drunk, but like on the way there, you made a system for cats to have fucking eyelids.
Yeah, well, everybody's got eyelids. Yeah. I mean,
oh my God, get boomed, Danny, you idiot! What the hell is Dwarf Fortress?
Dwarf Fortress is one of the most interesting games ever made, but the reason we've been sitting on this interview for so long is that our usual trick of using gameplay B-roll to explain what the developer is talking about doesn't really work here.
Right, you don't want to show the ASCII art?
You see, Dwarf Fortress looks like this. To the average viewer, the action that's taking place here is incomprehensible. In fact, it's only after playing hours of the game and watching dozens of YouTube tutorials that I can decipher half of what's going on here.
I don't even see the code.
But the ASCII graphics are part of the reason Dwarf Fortress is so interesting.
It is very cool that people are like, I can't make a game. I don't know how to make art. And these guys were like, who needs fucking art, dude?
Yeah, so my name is Tarn Adams, and I'm the co-founder of Bay 12 Games, and I'm making a game called Dwarf Fortress with my brother Zach. The website's been up for 18 and a half years.
What a website.
We hadn't really seen a kind of RPG fantasy type game that really indulged in the same things that like Civilization was doing or whatever, where you could make a whole map. So I created the Bay 12 website. I like started giving away the game we were working on at the time for free, and at that time it was like the 5th iteration of this drag slay game. It was called Slaves to Armok, God of Blood.
Slaves to Armok, God of Blood. That is a title and a half.
World War I Medic, which is one of our games that's gotten like a small amount of press. There's Liberal Crime Squad, which is another game. That's an ASCII game, right? Text.
Liberal Crime Squad?
We're gonna make it about dwarves. You dig. Dwarves always screw up and dig too deep. They die. They leave behind their little workshops and things, and we were gonna like generate diaries and things like that. And then you'd bring an adventurer in to go and find out, you know, as many little things as they could about the game you had just played. And so the dwarf mode makes your maximum score, and then the adventurer you send in gets the realized portion of the maximum score. Tight little, almost arcade game, right?
Calling Dwarf Fortress a tight little game is so funny. Like the most obscure, inaccessible, ugly, deep, beautiful simulator of all time. Nice tight little game. In and out, quick, 5-minute game. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so Dwarf Fortress is a colony management game. I mean, it's kind of hard to explain to a theoretical person. It's like, do they know what SimCity is? Do they know what Tropico is? Do they know what these other kind of games that are vaguely like it are, right? But you basically have a group of dwarves, and they mine in the mountain. You don't control any specific dwarf, but you just kind of order their general activities and just make the best of things as trouble comes your way. You can also play a single-player RPG, so you can visit your retired fortresses, talk to your old dwarves. I mean, it's not that great, right? We don't have like a script writer like writing like this whole story of your dwarves or whatever, but they'll talk to you about, you know, what they've been doing and so forth. And over the years, it's become...
It's always like, I hate that it's raining. I feel like every time you walk and talk to a dwarf, it's like, rain fucking sucks, huh? Am I right? Can't stand this rain. I hate it. I hate the rain a lot.
It's the idea that you can be playing a game without a story, but a story will still arise as you follow the different threads and pieces of information that are...
Rest in peace, Lil Spud. He was a great dwarf. What kind of got me interested in Dwarf Fortress the most was I used to be a RimWorld Andy. I'd play a lot of RimWorld, and there's a subreddit called like RimWorld Comics or something, and these people would take their save with their characters doing different things with these like random world events happening, and they would make these like concise, interesting comics about their world. And I all of a sudden got pulled from that into Dwarf Fortress, and I started thinking, I gotta play this game. I looked it up. It was ugly as sin. I waited for the Steam release. Now I've played, I don't know, 20, 25 hours this week. It's a good game. It's a good game.
Well, hello, you bearded bastards.
I want to get some story time of my dwarves.
And as you can see, we have ourselves a little guest. A guest by the name of Kenam Sport Torches. The perfect growth. Or should I say, the corpse of Kenam Sport Torches. The Hydra. A giant dragon-like monster with 7 biting heads.
A Hydra hit his world?
However, if this was a living Hydra, we could potentially do enough damage to it to exhaust it, or possibly make it collapse in pain, and then eventually bleed out. But none of those are going to be factors in combating this foe. So
right,
I'm not too
Undead
sure
Hydra's
how I'll play
much
this.
stronger.
If the thing would just come to the fortress, that might make things a little bit more straightforward.
Yeah, I will say that this guy got a Hydra, I got a really tall tree, but this Hydra hasn't killed anyone, and that tree killed Lil Spud, so the tree might be more dangerous.
Recently, we allowed humans to move into your fortress, and they can petition for residency based on, you know, various criteria, and you can decide to let them join or not. But then the problem is, like, none of the clothes fit them. And so you have to, like, explicitly say, I want to make some human clothing for human-sized people. As you can imagine, that's fiddly, right? That's really fiddly. and just another burden that the Dwarf Fortress player has to assume, which is a problem, right? I mean, we really like to help people, but at the same time, we're adding more stuff, and then we're not helping people by doing so, and so forth. But it's more about just general modularity, I think. For instance, with villains now, we have this piece of their mind that's called their intrigue perspective, and it holds
There's villains?
the different actors in the plots and so forth. And that's in their own mind as opposed to being another.
Was the tree a villain?
Do modern games bore the shit out of you or something?
Well, I mean, it's like I still listen to music, you know. I play a lot of PS4 games and stuff, I just don't play them for like the same reason that I play
Fair.
them. Like, if I
That's
wanna
such a
go
fair
find
answer.
metal down-
This guy seems
Alright,
very
now then,
cool.
Anyways, our fortress. Here you can see a little entryway, pretty much all set up. We have a trade depot here, as well as a couple of protective bridges that can be raised to protect the entryways.
Protective bridges?
The roof up top is almost all completed, and then down in the actual fortress you can see that the meeting hall is all carved out, although we don't have any tables or chairs in place quite yet. That's because we've been working on the bedrooms, of which we have 20, and each has its own bed, cabinet, coffer, and statue. There are 2 levels of them. And then over here to the right you can see some looms and farmer workshops, storage for plants. Underneath we have some stills and kitchens, and then way up top in this clay layer here, you can see the farm plots, and storage for seeds as well. So we're looking pretty good.
Storing
we
seeds
have had
next
a
to the
couple
farm
of
makes a lot
microwaves
of
at this
sense.
point, so we're up to 13 dwarves. So we're going
I have triple the dwarves and way less of the efficiency.
Can you give us some examples of like how are ways that like, you know, fortresses tend to just collapse?
So yeah, you can. I mean, a very common way that fortresses collapse is flooding. Yeah.
Very common, chat. Happens to everyone their first time. Nothing like a little flood. It happens to even the best dwarves will flood their base sometimes, you know? Okay, so should we... Okay, I'm going to do something. I'm actually not going to ask you. I'm going to do something without asking you, and it may fuck me, and it may fuck me good. Is this going to flood my cavern, or am I going to create a nice little walk up to the water? This seems to have flooded me.
Section of the fortress needs to be sealed off as quickly as possible, and occasionally there's a few dwarves that are just kind of stuck in there, and you build the memorials to them so that their ghosts don't haunt the fortress. And and then they're fine. You don't need to reclaim their bodies. It helps if you could.
That
find
happened
and
to me.
bury
I
them,
built a
but
memorial
sometimes
today.
it's not possible. And it turned out it's because when we added emotions to the game, we added like 120 different emotions to the game, and one of them was the euphoria you feel after you've been drinking. And we had a flag that was wrong on that. So after your first drink, you would be euphoric for the rest of your life.
Oh my god.
Just like in real life, chat, everyone go buy some Bud Lights.
And so, so they never had trouble again. So I fixed that, and then suddenly we're back down, and everyone's pissed off again. And we recently introduced the kind of short and long-term memory system to do like character arcs, so that you would like remember the strongest things that have happened to you over like a year, and then it would save them to your long-term memories, and that also causes a personality change when it does it, so that we.
That's bonkers. You're hearing what he's saying, right? I'm not the only person hearing what he's saying. That we're causing. I think that we live in a Dwarf Fortress type simulation. That's me. Sometimes I have short-term memory and I convert it to long-term memory. What the hell?
Tarn and Zach have been making this game for a die-hard community of players for almost 2 decades, but perhaps the craziest thing about all of this is that Dwarf Fortress is free. After a few years of people badgering them, they eventually put a donation button on their website and started getting support from their community. And in more recent years, they've developed a pretty healthy Patreon. But the reason for creating a commercial Steam version complete with actual sprites isn't just about making a quick buck. For Tarn and his brother, it's a lot more personal.
So yeah, so we had been giving away the game free for a very long time, and
This is like when SpongeBob and Patrick are making the pretty patties and giving them away for free and burning the money. It's like, you guys have gold here.
just recently I mean, my brother's always had you know, he's on a medication that's expensive. This is kind of a typical U.S. problem or whatever, and that's been, you know, for, you know, more than a decade or whatever. And then we just recently had like a kind of cancer scare thing that ended up costing, you know, a bit of money and so forth. And we looked at my health insurance plan and we're like, you know, if that had been me instead of my brother that time, then I'd have been wiped out. I mean, that's just, my plan is different from his or whatever. And just the little numbers and percentages don't add up favorably or whatever, that kind of crap. So we're just like,
Man,
okay,
this is too real.
It's time to, you know, enter our 40s a little more responsibly. But at the same time, we wanted to keep, you know, try and stay as close to what we were doing as we always had done. So there's always going to be a free version. Features will always be updated and in line with the Steam version. The Steam version has graphics and sound. There's no specific date for the Steam release. We're hoping to get it together in X number of months, and if X is longer than 12, then a year and months or whatever. It's game development. You can always find a way to put anything you're interested in into a video game just by making it into a video game when you read about it or whatever. So it's like, if I'd have to be bored of everything.
Wow, what a good mindset too. Great video. Shout out to Danny, shout out to NoClip. Check him out on Patreon, patreon.com/NoClip. And check out Dwarf Fortress. The free version you can play with the ASCII art that you've seen. If you want to play the version I've been playing, it's on Steam. These people made a lot of money because of it, and I think they deserve it. More than most people, I think they deserve it, right?